Welcome! In this video, we'll explain the different types of permissions in InLoox and how to assign them to your users. Let's get started! In InLoox, there are different types of permissions: global user permissions, division permissions, and role-based permissions. It's important to note that all these permissions are cumulative and complement each other. By the way, division permissions are only available in the InLoox Enterprise and InLoox On-Prem editions. Let's take a closer look at these permissions. Click on your profile picture and navigate to the InLoox account settings. Then go to User Management. Here you can configure all the necessary settings. Let's start with global user permissions. These permissions are assigned at the user level and act as overarching rights. In practice, this means the user holds these permissions across all areas and projects within the InLoox account. We recommend keeping global user permissions to a minimum and defining specific details later using division and role-based permissions. However, for global user permissions, we advise granting each user at least the right to create projects or create project requests. In InLoox web app, it works like this. First, select one person or use multi-select to choose multiple people. On the right-hand side, go to the Global tab. If the person has the right to create projects, they will automatically be assigned the role of project manager for the projects they create themselves. However, they cannot view or edit projects created by other InLoox users unless they are assigned a role in those projects. More about roles later. With the Create Project Requests permission, the person cannot create projects directly, but can submit project requests. These requests must be approved before all project members can access the project. Another important global user permission is found at the bottom, the Administrator permission. With this permission, users can access all menu sections in the settings and make changes. Without administrator rights, users can only view and edit their personal settings. There are many other global user permissions available. It's important to consider which permissions a user should have across all projects, regardless of whether they are part of a specific project or not. If you decide that certain permissions, such as viewing a project plan, should only be granted when the user is part of the project, this should not be managed through global user permissions, but rather through role-based permissions. Let's have a look. Role-based permissions define the role a person temporarily holds within a project. There are different roles available like project manager, team, customer partner, and more. In a project, you can find the roles in the top right corner by clicking the plus sign. There you can assign users to the appropriate roles. Let's take a look at the role-based permissions in the settings by clicking on the Roles tab. We'll start with the project manager role as an example. Here you can configure what a person is allowed to do within a project when assigned the role of project manager. It makes sense for the project manager to have comprehensive read and write permissions, so we recommend granting all rights by default. However, there are a few exceptions where you may want to decide individually whether a specific permission is appropriate for this role. For example, delete project comments. For quality assurance purposes, we recommend deactivating this permission as a general rule. Allow backdating time entries. We recommend deactivating this permission for project roles as a general rule. However, it may make sense to assign this permission as a user-level right if the person is responsible for tasks such as billing based on time efforts and needs to make corrections when necessary. Edit financials. Deactivate this permission at the role level if project financials and budgets are managed by a central team or specific individual. Delete projects. We recommend not deleting projects but archiving them instead. This permission is better assigned as a user-level right to someone in quality management rather than as a role-based permission. Now let's move on to the team member role. A team member typically has fewer permissions than the project manager, so the permissions setup might look like this. The team member should not have access to read or edit financials. They also shouldn't be able to edit project contacts, delete own and other comments, lock projects, or delete projects. Additionally, since only the project manager edits the Gantt planning, read-only permissions for planning may be sufficient for the team member, and edit permissions for planning can be removed. Further, editing others' time entries could also be removed. Remember that this is only an example. You can now continue with the remaining roles and select the permissions that make sense for each specific of your needed roles. Finally, let's take a look at division permissions, which are only available in the InLoox Enterprise and On-Prem editions. With division permissions, individuals can be granted reading rights in certain projects of a specific division without needing to take on a role within the project. It's important to understand that division permissions are based on the assignment of projects and not on the division to which a person belongs. In the InLoox settings, administrators must first create the divisions. Navigate to Organization in the menu on the left and then click on the Divisions tab. By clicking the plus sign, you can create a new division. Use this to reflect your company structure or define the divisions to which projects will ultimately be assigned. Within a project, you can select these predefined divisions on the Manage page. Back in the settings, under Assignment, you can also assign the corresponding users, although this is not relevant for division permissions. What is relevant, however, are the settings in User Management. Let's have a look. Go to User Management, select one or more people, and switch to the Divisions tab. Select one or more divisions from the drop-down menu. In our example, IT. Under Permissions, activate the rights the person should have for projects in the selected division. In our case, the person should be able to view the planning, so we select Read Projects and then Read Planning. With this setup, the person can always view the planning in IT projects, even if they don't have a role in those projects. All done. If you need further assistance with setting up InLoox, feel free to visit our website at inloox.com or contact our support team.